it's Ruthie from RuthieGray.mom, and welcome to Instagram Insider Hacks. So easy, your mom can do it. This is the podcast that teaches you how to authentically deliver your message in a non-pushy way. If you want to receive engagement and investment on your Insta time, listen in. And now, here's your host, me, Ruthie Gray. Today, we have Eric Nevins, the host of Halfway There. Halfway There is packed with years of experience walking with God and features people in a variety of stages of life and Christian maturity. Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started podcasting and how long you've been doing this?
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Well, Ruthie, it's great to be here. I love what you do with this show. It's really cool. I got started in podcasting. It's really been like 5 years ago now. So I used to be in a job where I would read blogs all day, working in a call center. And then I couldn't do that job anymore. So I moved to a job where I had to actually work and click links all day. And I discovered podcasting. And that really did change my world because I'm more of a verbal processor. And so where when I tried to blog, it didn't work quite as quickly for me, but podcasting really did. It took me 2 years to actually get started. I had the idea in 2014. Then in 2015, I started making some recordings, and it took me a whole nother year to get over that imposter syndrome and get through it and actually work with the technology. I had to hire a coach, and he helped me. He's a good friend of mine now. Get through all of that personally, and then launch it on June 6, 2016. And so we just published episode number 211 this week, and I couldn't be more excited. You mentioned the number of years. A few years ago when I did it, it was like already 2,000 or 3,000 years of experience just in people that I've talked to. And I think we've already got over 5,000 or 6,000 years of experience just walking with the Lord on the show in 211 episodes. And that just blows me away because it's a real resource for people. If you want to grow in Christ, listen to Halfway There.
So podcasting and the whole podcasting arena, that's just basically, that's what you do. That's where you live now, right?
It is. Yeah, I love it. So I made a really big leap in 2018. I was in a job that I did not love, and I felt like I was wasting my time. Every time I would go there, I felt like a little piece of my soul died. And it was really tough to keep doing that to myself. So I made a plan to get out and have some money in the bank and start working with podcasters. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years. In 2017, I started Christian Podcasters Association as a little Facebook group. And a couple months ago, we passed 1,000 members. And so I decided to take that to the next level with a membership site where I can really invest in people who are kingdom-minded and using podcasting to change the world for the kingdom.
Would you say that the larger demographic of this group are people who have podcasts about Christian living?
Well, no, not necessarily. There's a bunch of us, but really a lot of it, I'd say Christian podcasting encompasses any Christian doing a podcast. So my friend Michael Woodward does a show called Jumble Think. He's in the group. It's a business podcast. He talks to people who do creativity, and he talked to LeVar Burton, which is totally awesome. And it's a business kind of a world, right? But he's in the group because he's a Christian, he's a believer. And sometimes he'll talk to somebody like Hillsong because he gets he just is so good at getting great guests. And so I think if you have a business podcast, but you're a believer, Christian Podcasters Association is for you.
Mm-hmm. My podcast is basically business. It's Instagram marketing. So I have found kindred spirits there. We are unashamedly believers, and we want to share that through the different facets that we are broadcasting. I think you said you had a coach.
I did, although my coach really was there for the mental game of putting myself out there, because that's one of the hard things. I don't know if you struggle with this, Ruthie, deciding like, okay, I'm going to do this and put it out there. A lot of times we hear our own voice and we go, that's not really very good. And it's hard to get through that. So my coach really helped me with that.
So that is kind of what you're doing then with your membership level of the Christian Podcasters Association, correct?
Yeah, it is. So I think of our membership, we have three levels. There's a free level, which is bronze. There's a silver level, where we help you promote your show on our various social media feeds, like our Instagram, which I'm learning from you how to do. And then we also have a gold level where I talk to people who are in the podcasting industry, like Cliff Ravenscraft. I talked to him. I've talked to people about Facebook ads. I talked to my buddy Michael Woodward about how to get great guests. And then we have a conversation that you can watch later at your own leisure to learn and take your show to the next level. So usually if you've been podcasting 60, 70, 80 episodes, you're going to keep going with it, but you want to take it to the next level. That's where gold is really good. And then we do a mastermind where we get together twice a month to just talk about what are the things we're struggling with. Is it technology? Is it our message? Is it a strategy or whatever? Can be social media. And we help each other kind of through that. What I love about the mastermind is the whole group contributes. I don't have to be the genius in the room because I'm not. Like, I'm just a guy who has been studying this, but other people experience other things. They share their expertise and we all benefit. It's a really beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very supportive group, and everybody has questions when they're starting out. I know I still have tons of questions about software or publishing or streamlining or promoting. Going back to what you said at the beginning, you had imposter syndrome. That was like my third episode that I taped was what to do when you're struggling with imposter syndrome or fear of posting on Instagram. So anytime that you're out there in the public, I think you struggle with that unless you are somebody that just has a super abundance of confidence, because we think that we have to know everything before we actually do anything. Right. Whereas really, podcasting and Instagram are a lot alike in that you just need to get started. It can't be done perfectly until you start doing it, right?
100%. You just have to get going. You can't steer a parked car. You have to get going so that you can get better. Podcasting is as much about personal growth as it is about audience growth. And maybe Instagram is the same way. Think of it as you're learning something about yourself. And so you're doing it for you as much as you are doing it for your audience. I think that God's put something in our hearts that we have to reckon with that.
I agree. So we have to go with it. It's just like God told Joshua when he was supposed to take over for Moses and conquer the land, be strong and have good courage because I'm going to be with you. So just move, just go.
Right. I mean, imagine following that dude, right? Following Moses, who led them through the Red Sea and all those things. And I can see why Joshua, even though he was close, he was there for all those things. I can see why he might have had a little bit of imposter syndrome, and God encourages him in it. I love that. Great example.
We want to talk about podcasting as an audience building tool, and I am excited to delve into these secrets you have. So why don't you share with us some ways that you've been able to do that?
Well, the cool thing about podcasting is that you can actually connect with people and be in their day when they're doing something else. So a lot of times the stats show, well, let me ask you, where do you think most people listen to podcasts?
They're either walking or driving or doing dishes.
You're closer with the last one. It's in the house. So I would have said driving too before I saw the latest stats, but it's actually around the house, maybe working out. So maybe going for a walk, but most of the time it's doing something around the house. And so what's great is you can take a podcast with you. It's in your phone. It's in your earbuds. You plug it in and you can do the dishes. You can cook dinner. You can clean house, and it's available, whereas a video just isn't, right? If you have a YouTube channel, it actually takes, like, in order to see what's happening, I got to pay more attention. And so that's right. What I love about podcasting is it's a really accessible medium. And we finally went this year over 50%. So more people in the country have listened to a podcast than haven't. Isn't that crazy?
I know it's still a relatively new market. I'm like you, I had a blog for years and it just seemed like it took forever to get it off the ground. But once I started podcasting, it just took right off. Yeah. Like I should have been doing this a long time ago.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. So the stats on that are so fascinating. I just saw this last week. There are 1.4 million podcasts. Now, here's the thing. We didn't go over 1 million podcasts until earlier this year. So there are 400,000 people started a podcast this year, I think because they were home and with COVID, they had finally had the time and they were working on it, which is why all the podcasting equipment has been sold out for a while. But when you look at the actual numbers of podcasts that have produced more than 10 episodes, period, it actually drops to like less than 300,000 podcasts. So it doesn't matter what category you're in, even if you feel like your category is already saturated, all the business podcasts have been done, all the social media podcasts have been done, all the Christian podcasts have been done, right? The answer is probably not. There, a lot of those have started and stopped, and some people do that on purpose. My friends that focus on the family will create podcasts on purpose that are just 6 episodes, and they'll release it, and that's their strategy, and that's great. Other people start and they never get past episode 7. That's just how it goes. But even though it seems like everybody's got their own podcast these days, the reality is it's wide open. We may not be on the ground floor. We might be on the second floor of podcasting at this point, but this building is going to go high, and you may as well be in now.
I agree. I think it's just a terrific way, because I don't think people are sitting down and reading anymore. They're trying to consume as much content as possible, as quickly as possible.
Right. While they're doing other stuff. So
right.
That's exactly it.
So let's talk about some ways then that you promote your podcast. What do you do?
Yeah. The best thing that I do, I'm going to say 3 things. Okay. So first of all, I committed to showing up every week. So you probably see this with Instagram. You have to actually post, and you got to choose a schedule and just stick to it. Showing up and posting is probably the key. Same thing with podcasting. Show up. So for me, doing my best meant every single Monday morning there was going to be an episode of Halfway There, regardless of whether or not I had a guest. And so my show is guest-based, but there were times in the first couple of years where I'd run out for whatever reason. I would sit down and record my own. I would take a Bible story and I would tell that as a spiritual formation tool, something like that, because I was just committed to doing it. And sometimes that meant I was up until 11:30 at night on a Sunday evening, and I'd have to be at work at 6 a.m, which meant I had to get up at 5, and I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, which makes Eric a very grumpy boy. But that
all of us, I would say.
Yeah, but I had to do it. That commitment I made to myself. So show up is the first one. The second one would be make sure you share your work. And that's where social media comes in. Definitely you should be building an email list as well. It's a whole other topic. But I share on 9 different social media platforms every single week. And
wow.
So that includes Facebook groups, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, and some others that are much lesser known and probably not as important, because I don't know that my audience is there. But if they ever blow up, I want to already have my presence ready to go. And then the last one is I just have great guests. I have people that I think are amazing and who can share. So not every guest has their own audience, but a lot of them do. And I like to share. So this week we actually have a lady named Amy Bird, who really interesting book. And so she's got her own audience. And so she's going to share it with her friends. Mm-hmm. Well, and hopefully they'll listen.
And you have had some pretty big names on your podcast too. Annie Downs, wasn't she on there recently?
I interviewed Annie Downs for Podcast Magazine, which was fantastic. So she was so good. She talked about an Instagram tip. She talked about how she has fun on Instagram stories. She went around the office finding out how everybody cuts an apple, right? Like how everybody does it apparently differently, Uh-huh. And everybody thinks our way is the best way, probably. And then, so they had fun with that. And then she goes, I did that because if I can have a fun conversation with people, they'll trust me when I want to have a deep conversation with people.
Yes.
And I thought that was so powerful. So, but here's the thing, podcasting opened that door for me. So I got to work on Podcast Magazine because I went to New Media Summit. It was put on by a guy named Steve Olsher. And he was looking for people. So he knew me. And when I said, hey, I'd love to represent the Christian category, it turned out to be the religion and spirituality category. And then I started going, who do I want to know? Well, I'd love to know Annie F. Downs. So I interviewed her, and she was the September feature for our category. I'm working on some other people. So that's good. For my podcast, I've had people like, do you know Os Guinness? Os Guinness is a Christian writer and thinker. No. He knew Francis Schaeffer, if you know who he is, studied with him in France, in Switzerland. So I just had Sky Jitani, who's on the Holy Post with Phil Vischer, the guy who created Veggie Tales. It was so cool, right?
That is so cool.
I had John Schlitt, who used to be the lead singer, I guess still is, of Petra, which was one of the Christian bands I listened to as a young kid. His story's amazing. It blew me away, and it was just such a privilege to listen to him. I'm actually interviewing a guy named Jamie Rowe, who was the lead singer of Guardian, which was another one of my bands that I loved. So, like, you just get to. That's the beautiful thing about podcasting. If somebody interests you and you like them, and you can reach out to them, especially if they're putting out a book or something that they want to get the word out. They'll tell you their story. They'll tell you everything. It's beautiful.
Right. And they want to get their word out, and they want to share your podcast episode that they were on.
Right.
And that's twice the promotion right there.
Yeah, it's win-win-win, right? So I win as a podcaster. The guest wins because you're giving them some attention, and the audience wins because you're all engaged and you enjoy it and you're having fun and they learn something.
Yes, absolutely. Let's go back a minute to step number 2. You said that you shared a social media and you have 8 or 9 social media accounts. Which one do you think drives the most traffic to your podcast?
I'm really a Facebook guy. I like Facebook. So that's been my favorite. Definitely with the group. That's really helpful. But I just decided I was going to master one social media at a time. And so I worked on Facebook. I think most of my friends, and I'm a Gen Xer, right? So we're all still on there for the most part. But that's really my place where my people are.
Well, I know you and I have talked a little bit about Instagram, and I do advise people to build one platform at a time for sure. And if they come to me and they're watching me on Instagram, I'm like, don't be spreading yourself everywhere. Be a student of Instagram if you're going to be there. Let's talk a little bit about your Instagram account that you're trying to grow over there. Yeah. Why don't you share with me what your posting plan is right now?
Okay. So this is for Christian Podcasters Association. So one of the things we're doing is if you're in one of our membership levels, we'll promote you. And so what I'm trying to do, particularly with Instagram, and then I try to translate it to others, is share one post about Christian Podcasters Association. And then I share another post that's a picture of the podcaster and we talk about who they are. I do another post that is about trying to create some conversation around the idea. And then I share their show art. So I've been trying to do that all in one day. And it's a little overwhelming. It's a lot to do in one day, I've noticed. Plus, then I try to do stories too. So I was trying to do it all, and I thought that maybe I could eventually pull that off. I'm finding it kind of tough. So what should I do, Ruthie? Yeah.
Well, okay. So we're talking about 3 posts a day here. Is that what I'm hearing?
Really 4, because there's one about CPA, and then there's 3 that are relate to the other person.
Okay. I looked up your account, and you have roughly a little over 500 followers. When you have that small of an audience, you're blowing up their feed it's almost like you're bombarding them.
Sort of oversharing.
Like, read this, read this, read this, read this. And there's only 500 of them. So first I want to ask you this. What kind of engagement are you getting on those posts? Are you getting a lot of feedback?
That's a great question. So let's just take a look. So like the last one that I shared for CPA specifically got 6 likes. The one about the podcaster got 30 likes, 1 comment. The one where I was trying to create conversations, it's only 7 likes and 1 comment. And then the last one, 11 likes and 4 comments.
So imagine this. What if you cut all 4 of those down into just one? What if you just decided you're going to post once a day or maybe only 5 times a week or 4 times a week, and put more time into that, crafting that one post and with one goal in mind? Instead of asking your audience 3 and 4 times a day to talk about this, to read this, to engage with this, you would consolidate your efforts. I know you told me earlier you were spending a whole ton of time trying to get it all done, like an hour a day.
Yeah.
And I recently heard, and I believe this to be true, that whatever time you spend crafting a post, you should spend twice as much on engagement.
Oh,
So
wow.
because you have to engage with others and your followers and reaching out to new people in order to get engagement on your own posts. And you want engagement on your posts because the more engagement you get, the more Instagram will boost it and show it to others. So if you would just consolidate that into one post with one clear call to action and targeted hashtags for that one post, and maybe expand on that one post in your stories to make, say, 1 to 3 frames, even expand to 5 frames, and you could talk a little bit more about what you were doing, what you were sharing in all 4 of those posts. You could expand on it. I feel like you would get a whole better ROI for your time.
Yeah. So is what you're saying, instead of like I'm spreading myself too thin, and if we can just put it all together, you probably get more engagement on one post and a better result.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying.
Wow. So you just gave me the less is more social media talk, didn't you?
It is, because we're finding that on an Instagram post, especially the video ones like live or reels or IGTV, but even your feed posts can live up to 36 hours. So why would you mess with that? I mean, I'm posting 4 times a week, sometimes 5, but I know that I have to spend time engaging with my audience and going out there and looking for new folks. So I've got to have that time somewhere, and I want to craft a really good post or a good video. And like I posted a reel on Friday, and this is Monday, and that reel is still getting engagement.
Wow.
People are still commenting on it. So why not milk those posts for all they're worth, and then go out there and use the time to engage and do your research?
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I learned something. It's going to be different the rest of this week.
It's going to be different. Okay, I'm going to hold you to that. You were to advise someone on promoting to social media. Which platform would you recommend most? I think I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
I bet you do. I'm still a big Facebook guy, and I really do love Facebook groups. Like, it has been the best decision. That was actually a conversation I had with my coach, because I was struggling with email. Everybody says email. Mm-hmm. And I was struggling with writing because I just, for whatever reason, that's not my preferred method of communication, trying to write emails to everybody. And it just wasn't working. I wasn't attracting the audience that I wanted. And I said, I'm going to start a Facebook group instead, because I want that interaction to where I can post something. And so I have, like, I've kind of set about mastering it. I can ask a question or post something on Facebook, and I'll get plenty of engagement now. I've figured out how to ask a question in a way that makes enough people mad that they have to comment. And so
yes, I've noticed you like to stir the pot a little bit.
I do, but I do that for a reason, not just to, agitate people, but really to make them think. And so even if they disagree and they're willing to post sometimes long comments, that always amazes me. They're investing the time and the thought space in their head. I consider that a win.
Mm-hmm. Do you advise people when they start a podcast to start a Facebook group or a Facebook page?
Yeah, I do, because I think it's really a good idea to kind of be everywhere, So even if you're not going to do a whole ton with it, I would recommend having a page where you can post your show and have a group where you can have a conversation about whatever you're talking about. The cool thing about groups, if you can get really clear on what you're offering there. So like our Christian Podcasters Association, I only chose association because Christian Podcasters Community was already taken, but it kind of worked for me. And so when people see it, they know what it is, right? Oh, this is for Christian podcasters. And if you're a Christian podcaster, it's for you. So as long as you're clear on that, Facebook kind of advertises it for you, right? You're getting into a search engine that is super powerful. So if people go and search Facebook if they type Christian podcaster, they're going to find me. And then they end up coming in and they go through that cycle.
Yeah, and that's something that I have been trying to figure out if I want to do or not, because I'm a little different because I'm on Instagram and I teach Instagram.
Right. So
And so
you got
that is my platform and that's where I am. And I'm of the mindset of, why would I go over to Facebook to teach Instagram? The only reason that I think it would be a good idea is because it seems like, a lot of people that are more engaged on Facebook that are searching Facebook for how to do Instagram.
Right. Right. So you'd want to be there so that you are the answer when they go searching.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with Google, right? It's the reason why I tell podcasters to have their own website, right? Don't send the traffic when you share your show. Don't send it to Apple or Spotify. They don't need your help getting traffic. They've got plenty of traffic.
That is
send
a good
it to
point.
yourself. Get a website and send people to you so they can look at your website and see what you're offering. So but that then Google eventually, as you publish, so I've got 4 years of publishing. Google sees that. Google knows that, okay, if we're going to talk about the spiritual journey, I'm going to put Eric up there because I know that he's been working on this for a long time. He's got a lot of posts about it. And so you really want to build that. And I think the same is true what you're saying in Facebook. You might have an Instagram hacks or an Instagram, tip group where you post a couple times a week, something free, but then you're also socializing those people to what you're selling so they can join that as well.
Right. Okay. Point well taken. I'll think about it.
We're learning. This is the beautiful thing about podcasting is we can share together. We're all winning.
Yes, for sure. Well, didn't you say this earlier that rarely do people make it to 10 podcast episodes?
Yep.
So I just did my 15th.
Nice.
And I have a bunch in the hopper. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that.
I think I'm
going to make it.
You are. People don't understand how hard it really is. There are hurdles to get through, to whether it's the technology, knowing your message and voice, figuring out how to grow the show. If you've got a bunch in the can and you've gotten to 15, you're doing great and you're going to make it. It's a long game, which I think is why people quit, because they go, oh, nobody listened to my episode 6 or 7. That's all right. You're not here for today. You're here for 3 years from now. And so it's going to grow.
That's right. And when I go back and listen to these early days, I'm going to be like, wow, I'm glad I kept on going because, man, I didn't know what I was doing
you will.
at the beginning.
You'll notice that you'll be a lot more confident about how you say things, what you say. You'll understand your voice. And it's great. It really is a personal development tool, I think.
I agree. Well, thank you, Eric, for your time and sharing your wisdom with us about this. Where can folks find you?
Yeah, best place to find me is at my website, ericnevins.com. And you'll see the archives for Halfway There if you want to listen to that. Or if you're a Christian podcaster and you're interested in joining us, just search Facebook for Christian Podcasters Association and join. We'd love to have you.
Mm-hmm. I am so glad that you spent some time with us today, Eric. And we will be listening for the next episode of Halfway There.
Thanks, Ruthie. I think the world of you, and it's been really fun to be here.
Thanks a lot, Eric.